who was seriously injured last month at the U.S. Grand Prix at Laguna Seca. Before getting to that, let's drop in on the AMA National Championship Motocross Series. Here with that report is Chris Larson.
For Team Honda, round 2 of the 125 National Championship Series turned out to be a barrel of laughs as the Big Red Wrecking Crew rolled over the competition. They did, however, need a little help from their friends. In the opening moto, it came from number 9, Donnie Schmidt. The privateer from Bloomington, Minnesota, took the lead at the drop of the gate and was gone. He was so far gone, in fact, that when Honda team rider Guy Cooper, number 10, broke into second, he thought he was in the lead. Cooper held second until the last lap. Then, out of sight of our camera, the Stillwater, Oklahoma native went down, giving up the position to defending 125 national champion George Holland. Cooper rebounded to finish third, with the moto win going to Schmidt by a mile. In the second moto, the same 3 players were out front. This time, though, the leader was George Holland. The Kerman, California native went on to take the win and overall honors for the day.
Second moto, I was riding really good and relaxed, but I had a couple guys on me, but I started pulling away from them a little bit right there at about the third lap, and then I just kept pulling, and I rode really relaxed and smooth the whole moto, and I, like the first moto, I rode really tight, and I had a few problems. With the second moto, I didn't have any problems. I could have went faster if I needed to.
From Hangtown, the series moved to David Bailey's home track for round 3 and what would turn out to be the Damon Bradshaw show. The teenager from Charlotte, North Carolina did everything right. Well, almost everything. He avoided this first corner mess but didn't get the whole shot. That honor went to Guy Cooper aboard the red Honda. Within a few corners, however, the Team Yamaha rider rectified that. Color Bradshaw gone. At Lake Sugartree, the multi-time amateur national champion devastated the competition in both motos. Coming from out of the pack and finishing second in both motos was another teenage newcomer, Honda's Mike Kidrowski, number 762. Bradshaw, though, was easily the star of the Sugartree show. His performance and that of Kidrowski served notice to the veterans that a new wave of motocrossers are ready to step out of the wings. The upcoming season should prove to be the most exciting in years. For taking his first ever national win and doing it so convincingly, Damon Bradshaw is our Castrol Rider of the Week. For being named Castrol Rider of the Week, Bradshaw will receive a commemorative plaque and a custom embroidered racing jacket from Castrol. With 3 events down and 11 to go, teenagers Mike Kudrowski and Damon Bradshaw are in control of the 125cc championship points battle. Close behind are Guy Cooper, defending champion George Holland, and Donnie Schmidt. Reporting from Motoworld, this is Chris Larson.
Team Suzuki presents the Motoworld Suzuki Event Calendar. A look at some of the major events coming up in the world of motorcycles and ATVs.
The chase for motorcycle racing's most prestigious crown continues on the European continent on May 28th. The German Grand Prix will be held on the Hockenheim circuit in 1989. Mount Morris, Pennsylvania will be the site for round 5 of the AMA Outdoor Motocross Championships. 125 and 250cc riders are scheduled to compete. Rounding out the Memorial Day weekend of racing will be the always exciting Springfield Mile Dirt Track. The Grand National stars will strap on their steel shoes on Sunday, May 28th.
Still to come on Motoworld, would you believe car jumping with a truck? Witness one of the greatest race-long battles of the current Grand Prix era. And coming up next, more motocross action from Sacramento and Axton as we update the 250 class. Welcome back to Motoworld. Our first segment was devoted to the 125cc AMA Championship Motocross Series. Now let's take a look at the 250 class. We'll start with a couple of opinions regarding what it takes to win.
I think a good start, ride consistent, ride really smart, and ride your own race.
Well, just, you know, the fastest guy's going to win, and it's going to, you know, take good starts and good aggressive riding out there and get away from those guys at the beginning. That's what I'd like to do.
Both Tishner and O'Mara pointed out the need for a good start to win in today's highly competitive racing, and both of them got one. Unfortunately, right behind was a pair of Jeffs, Stanton and Ward. Suzuki's Ron Tishner, number 11 in third place, was the first to taste the wrath of the Jeffs. He was pushed back to fourth by Stanton on the red number 7 Honda. A few corners later, the other Jeff, this one on a Kawasaki, duplicated Stanton's feat, and that put Ward fourth and Tishner fifth. Meanwhile, up front, Johnny O'Mara on the yellow Suzuki was making the most out of his good start by taking the number 1 spot from Yamaha's Doug Dubach. Dubach, however, did not take kindly to that and promptly regained the lead. All that early moto dicing, though, was for show only. When the moto boiled down to its final stages, there were only 2 left in contention. both of them were Jeff's. The winner, the defending 250 national champ, Jeff Ward on the Kawasaki. The checkered flag, Ward had a huge lead and coasted across the line. The second moto was also a Jeff and Jeff confrontation. In this one, though, the leading Jeff at the finish was aboard a Honda.
Yeah, I felt really good coming into the fourth and fifth lap from the end, and I was catching on Wardy a little bit, and I just had the opportunity to push him out in the corner, so I did it. And then I just rode smooth and pulled away.
With that checkered flag, Jeff Stanton garnered his first ever motocross national win. From Hangtown, the series moved to Axton, Virginia, the home of David Bailey. The former champ was on hand to supervise the weekend's activities that drew a big crowd despite early morning questionable weather. When the balloons went up, the skies were clear, the track was dry, and a full day of racing was underway. The early going of Moto number 1 was a continuation of the previous week's Hangtown affair. It was Ward number 1 in front with Stanton right behind. The pair of Jeffs dueled in the trees with neither rider willing to give an inch. Then Stanton held it on just a little longer than Ward and took over the number 1 spot. From that point, the first moto was as good as over. Stanton from Sherwood, Michigan, poured it on and took the easy win. The second moto was a different story, at least at the beginning. Ward took the early lead and, with Stanton mired in traffic, immediately began leaving the field behind. Stanton, with a bad start, had opened the door for Ward, and Ward was on the way through. But then the door was slammed shut. The result of a crash, Ward found himself without a front brake and a set of twisted bars. Shortly thereafter, Ward found himself in second place. Stanton claimed the win in the second moto and his second overall win in as many weeks. When Stanton signed with Honda, no one predicted his sudden rise to stardom, not even Jeff.
Well, I didn't expect it. I was hoping it. I switched from Yamaha to Honda, and the new bikes fit me real well. I'm just starting to adapt to them real well now. I'm just starting to feel real good on them, so hopefully I can keep doing it up all year.
With 4 rounds of competition remaining, the 250cc Championship Series has turned into a personal duel between Jeff Ward and Jeff Stanton. Who will win? Watch Motoworld in upcoming weeks for the answer. Now let's look at another scoreboard. It's a little bigger, a little more colorful, and a whole lot more money. We found it at a recent Supercross and thought it was interesting. I think you will too. The Pontiac Silverdome has always been just a little bit different. Its roof, for example, is supported not by conventional rafters, but by air from a series of huge fans. Recently, another major difference was added. The most modern, up-to-date, state-of-the-art scoreboard in the world. Installed in August of 1988, the Diamond Vision Mark III is a 24 by 32-foot clear-as-a-bell giant screen TV. Would you like one?
When you add up all the installation as far as time to do it, material, cost of the boards, TV sets, new message centers, we're looking at about $4.3 million.
Of course, for that much money, you get a lot of goodies to play with. Instructions? You'll figure it out in time.
I started out in the Silverdome 14 years ago running the original scoreboards, which was a black and white video board. Moving to the new technology, I basically had to learn whole new technology from going from black and white to color. The training period I got from Mitsubishi helped out a great deal during the installation, and I have an ongoing training period. One of the key things, though, is a lot of hands-on experience.
There are 12,000 of these cubes in the Pontiac board. Each one of the dots is a red, green, or blue color point. Craig told me which was which, but I forgot. Whether it's a replay, a commercial message, or following the action, the board in the Silverdome does it better than any other in the world. Personal messages? There's a special board for that. Welcome back to Motoworld. Dennis Torres has joined me on the Motoworld set with some road racing news, including what appears to be good news regarding the condition of road racer Bubba Schobert.
I'm happy to report you're exactly right, Larry. Bubba Schobert continues to improve, and the prognosis looks favorable. According to Christy Welter of the San Jose Medical Center, Bubba is making good progress, has regained consciousness, and is progressing with an aggressive rehabilitation program. Now, this doesn't mean that we'll see Bubba Schobert donning his leathers real soon. What it does mean is that our hopes and prayers have been answered. We'll update Bubba's progress periodically on upcoming editions of Motoworld. Meanwhile, the other two riders injured at the U.S. Grand Prix, Wayne Gardner and Kevin McGee, continue on the sidelines and have missed round 4 of the World Championship, the Spanish Grand Prix. Gardner's broken leg and McGee's broken ankle will keep the Aussies out of action indefinitely. Looking at the Spanish GP results shows Honda-mounted Eddie Lawson the winner, with U.S. GP winner Wayne Rainey second. Neil McKenzie brought home the Marlboro Yamaha third, ahead of Christian Saron and former champ Freddie Spencer. Sad news for Kevin Schwantz fans in Spain. The Suzuki-mounted Texan had the race in the bag and crashed a handful of laps from the end. Schwantz was not seriously injured. With 4 races run, we've had 4 different winners. It's going to be a competitive year, to say the least. Rainey and Lawson are currently in control of the standings, but we're not even a third of the way through the season. As I stated on a previous edition of Motorworld, acquiring footage from Grand Prix events this year has been a nightmare. Without getting into the specifics, we have just now been cleared to use footage from the opening race of the year in Japan. Although you probably already know the results, we felt you deserved to see highlights from the epic race-long battle between Wayne Rainey and Kevin Schwantz.
The sight for this mano-a-mano confrontation is almost as impressive as what was to materialize on the track that day. The 3.64-mile Suzuka course is awe-inspiring. Add to that 85,000 Japanese enthusiasts, and you have the biggest motorsports event on the Asian continent. For American riders, it's like playing high school football at your local stadium and then playing in the Rose Bowl. There were a lot of preseason questions concerning this year's World Championship title chase. There were lots of musical chairs going on as far as riders switching teams and contradicting reports of impressive secret practice sessions. As it turned out, though, it was the young lions of the sport that stole the show. The former champs had an off day. Number 19, Freddie Spencer, off the track, settled for 14th. Number 2, Wayne Gardner, involved in this wild, painful ride, ended up 4th. Number 1, defending champ Eddie Lawson nursed a broken wrist to an eventual 3rd. While all this was going on, number 3, Wayne Rainey, and number 34, Kevin Schwantz, were battling for the lead, and I mean battling. Check out this pass as both approach the chicane, which precedes the long Suzuka front straight. Schwantz not only made the pass, but shut the door on Rainey big time. The usual consistent, calculating Rainey got the bit between his teeth, and for the rest of the race, it was Rainey on the Yamaha versus Schwantz on the Suzuki. Rainey on the Dunlop tires, Schwantz on the Michelins. This sequence is typical of the seesaw battle. Schwantz makes his move on Rainey at the chicane. The Texan makes the pass on the Californian, but coming out of the chicane, the Yamaha rider has the better drive, and now it's Rainey in the lead. But hold on, the famous Suzuka front straight now comes into play. There it is, 2 GP bikes in a drag race, but at the end of this strip is a fast right-hander. And the lead changes one more time. This was classic GP racing. This upcoming pass turned out to be the final lead change of the day. Last lap, again after the long straight, Schwantz puts his Pepsi Suzuki into the lead, this time for good. Rainey would say later he thought there was one more lap and consequently held back a little. After 22 grueling laps, it was Schwantz by less than half a second. On the 23rd go-around, the fans on hands were treated to the now famous Schwantz "Look Ma, no hands" routine, a fitting curtain call to an Academy Award performance.
The Rainey-Schwantz rivalry reminds me of the great rivalries of years past, Mike Hailwood and Giacomo Agostini, or Kenny Roberts and Barry Sheen. Larry, Japan 1989 will go down in history as one of those classic confrontations. Those lucky European fans, just think what they have to look forward to this year.
Some great racing, that's for sure. Thank you, Dennis. When Motorworld continues, we'll profile a motorcycle sculptor and show you a car jump that's a little bit out of the norm. Keep it tuned to TNN and you'll see what I mean. Feature story on independent design and production outside the motorcycle industry. In part 1, Mark McKay profiles an industrial design engineer who has transformed his innovative imagery into innovative reality.
Since the genesis of motorcycle design and production, two-wheel vehicles have taken many forms and shapes. Leaps in technology and the ever-changing market demands usually dictate the evolution process. That is, of course, if you are a motorcycle manufacturer. Enter the Rad MC Squared. You won't see this motorcycle on any dealer showroom because this bike was conceived and produced by an independent constructor, namely one James Parker, creator of Rad Inc.
The name RAD stands for Rationally Advanced Design Development. And that, in a way, explains what I'm trying to do. I feel that motorcycle engineering decisions have been made too much based on what was done in the past, without real considerations for how would we do this if we really thought it through.
Parker calls himself an industrial design engineer, which he feels combines art, function, and science.
Industrial design is more of a concept-oriented profession that really works well in invention, because inventions, although they involve engineering, they involve a creative aspect that maybe is more like sculpture or painting at times.
The finished canvas is a futuristic form, which Parker feels is not just pleasing to the eye, but to the rider as well. The key innovation on the MC Squared is the swing arm front suspension. Probably the most familiar adaptation of the swing arm front suspension concept was the Elf Grand Prix machine. After years of research and development, the Elf project was shelved in favor of the more conventional front fork suspension design. Still, Parker feels the swing arm design is superior in theory because it is stronger and more rigid.
When you have any flex or any movement in a system, the control inputs get confused by that flex and movement, and so one of the principal ideas behind the suspension is to make the suspension more machine-like, more accurate, and more easily interpreted by the rider.
A Motoworld salute to James Parker, designer extraordinaire. In part 2 of our look at independent motorcycle design and production, we'll take a look at a unique design studio which has made a significant impact on present-day motorcycling. Reporting for Motoworld, this is Mark McKay.
Every time we run video with cars or trucks, we get mail from our devout motorcycle fans reminding us Motoworld is a motorcycle show. Well, at the risk of again offending those viewers, coming up is a video of a monster truck. Something tells me, though, that you'll enjoy this one.
There are a few things you should know about monster trucks. Number 1, they look good. Number 2, they sound good. Number 3, they are extremely powerful. And number 4, they don't handle well at all with all 4 wheels off the ground. Watch the Chi-Town Hustler on this world record car jumping attempt. I told you you would like it. Want to see it again?
Needless to say, the Chi-Town Hustler came up just a little bit short. And we're short on time. Thank you for joining us. For Dennis Torres and the rest of the Motoworld staff, I'm Larry Myers reminding you, keep your wheels on the ground and your feet on the pegs. See you next week.